Judy, and this is my niece Bethany, and I've gone to Zion's for about 8 years and have lived a Christian life all my life and have known God since I was a little girl. And Bethany came to church as a little girl with my mom and was introduced to God at a very early age as well. And she recently moved here about 5 years ago, and really my prayer was that she would get back to knowing God, because I know God was in her heart somewhere. I don't know if she ever accepted Christ. I had never had that conversation with her, but I always prayed that once she moved, that she would come to know God. She had a baby, and we have baby Q, as we call him, Quentin, came into our family. And at that point I was like, okay, she really needs to know God, because I need Quentin to know who God is. My dad is a Christian, my mom was a Christian, and my mom passed away, and that was a huge loss for the both of us. But I felt it was my mom really telling me that I needed to bring her Christ. And I felt a really big responsibility for that, and it was a huge burden for me that I wasn't doing it, and I wasn't making my mom proud. And so that was a huge piece of it for me. And so I just prayed, because I didn't know what else to do. I was too scared to ask her, because I had that fear of her saying no and rejecting me. We would invite her to things, or things that the kids were involved in, or something that was going on at church, and I don't think she ever came to maybe one or two things. You came to see the kids. One night it was raining, and I got a phone call that she was in a serious accident. And I mean, she just said, "I'm in a serious accident, I need you to come right now." I didn't know what happened. I just knew she was talking. And I drove, and the entire time I drove there, I was just screaming to God that she would be okay, and that the baby would be okay, and that God would just come through and just let this be it, that He was there. I prayed, I screamed. I've never screamed before out loud like that driving, and I was screaming that God would just be there, and that everybody would be okay, and that not only would they be okay, but that she would see that God was there. And when I got to the scene, it was horrific, and her car was a jumbled mess, and there were ambulances everywhere and police everywhere. And I got up to the fireman, and he wouldn't let me through. And I said, "That is my niece and my nephew, my great nephew. I need to be there." And then he directed me to the ambulance. And when I got to the ambulance, she was just a mess. I mean, she was in shock. And I saw that she was okay, and I just needed to know where the baby was. And I just wanted to know, was the baby okay? And a really great EMT was there and said, "The baby's okay. He's going to be all right." And I looked again outside at that car, and she got from the driver's side to the back of the car by opening the door. And there's absolutely no way that she could have done that. I said to the fireman, "How did she get to, like, what happened?" And he said, "I have no idea how she got that door open. It should have never opened." And I said, "I know how she got the door open. God did it. God did it." And I knew at that moment that He was there, and that He is what got her to the baby. And I just said to her, "You know that God did this. Like, I'm telling you right now, if there's ever a time that you didn't know who God was, this is it. This is it. God made that door open." So she said, I mean, she was crying, we were crying, and she said, okay, I don't know what to do. What do I do? You pray, because I don't know what to do. Am I supposed to say a prayer? You say a prayer. I don't know what to do. And at that moment, I just said that God was there, and He loved her, and He made her make it through that accident. and that baby Q was okay because of God. I didn't say a prayer of salvation. I didn't at that moment say, do you want to know Christ? It didn't come at that time. I just needed her to know that God was the reason why she made it through that accident.
So I'd had some rough spots and some hard times up until the accident. When the accident happened, it was probably like the scariest. So I do remember Judy saying that she was praying on the way over. And Judy's right, if she had asked me before to come to church or something, I would have made up an excuse, or she always made it known that I was welcome there and that I could go anytime. But she was right in thinking that I would think she was pushing her faith on me. So when the accident happened, I knew that it was kind of a shove, like, open your eyes. I'm not in charge. And I think 2 days after the accident, I texted Judy and said, I think I want to come to church with you sometime. Because I knew at that point that things were out of my control. And if they're out of my control, someone has control. And I knew that that was God after that accident. I knew that I needed to accept that, and I needed to recognize it, and I needed to be faithful to that. That weekend I went to church with Judy for the first time. I missed a sermon one week where Randy asked people that wanted to accept Christ into their life to come to the front of the church and have the church pray for them. I missed that sermon, and I was listening to it on the podcast. Is that what it's called? On the podcast, and I opened my heart while I was listening to it, or I tried to do it myself while listening to Randy's voice, because I was upset that I missed that opportunity, because I thought I missed it. I wasn't there for one weekend, and I missed my chance. But I kept going, and every week it was something I looked forward to. I knew that I was going to get strength, and I was going to feel some peace. And then just a couple of weeks later, Randy again asked people who wanted to accept Christ in their life, and so I took that opportunity then. I think that going to church and accepting Christ and trying to learn and letting Judy guide me has really brought a whole different feeling of peace.